Nearly 1 in 5 Americans couldn't pull together $1,000 in 24 hours. If you can, you're easily in the top 30% of Americans. I did a bunch of research on American finance verified against real data, and let me tell you, this is probably the least craziest in this video. From people's emergency funds, credit card delinquencies, student loans, auto payments, and the net worth gap. This video condenses the average American finances all down for you to compare to your own, or just enjoy. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time digging into the real financial data that most people never see. If you want to understand what's actually happening with money in America, and whether you're ahead of the curve or dangerously behind it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, because what I'm about to reveal could be the wake-up call that changes your entire financial future. Today, I'm going to walk you through the most shocking financial facts about the average American that will make you realize just how precarious most people's financial situations really are. Some of these statistics are so unbelievable that you'll probably think I'm making them up, but every single number comes directly from federal government data and major financial institutions. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly where you stand compared to everyone else. And more importantly, you'll know which financial disasters you need to avoid to stay ahead of the majority. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. Most of these financial problems aren't happening to people who are unemployed or working minimum wage jobs. These are happening to people with college degrees, steady employment, and what most of us would consider decent middle-class incomes. The financial fragility we're dealing with spans across education levels, career paths, and income brackets in ways that will genuinely shock you. Let's start with something that sounds almost too crazy to be true. 59% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense using their actual savings. Think about that for a moment. We're not talking about some massive financial catastrophe like losing your job or dealing with a serious medical emergency. We're talking about something as simple as your car needing new brakes, your washing machine breaking down, or getting an unexpected medical bill that most insurance plans would consider routine. This means that if you walked into any room with 10 random Americans, 6 of them would be completely unable to handle what most financial experts consider a minor unexpected expense without borrowing money, using credit cards, or asking family for help. But it gets worse. This percentage has actually gotten worse over the past year. In 2024, only 44% couldn't handle this expense, which means we're moving in the wrong direction despite what politicians and economists keep telling us about economic recovery. Even more shocking is what happens when we lower that emergency expense to just $400. According to the Federal Reserve, 37% of Americans cannot handle a $400 emergency without borrowing money. $400. That's less than most people spend on their monthly car payment. Yet, it represents a financial crisis for more than 1 out of every 3 Americans. To put this in perspective, $400 is what many people spend on a weekend getaway or a nice dinner for 2 at a decent restaurant. But here's where this gets absolutely terrifying. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans say they couldn't come up with $1,000 in cash within 24 hours to save a loved one's life. Imagine that scenario for a moment. Your child, parent, or spouse is in a life-threatening situation, and you literally cannot access enough money to potentially save them because you have no savings, no available credit, and no family members who could help you immediately. The emergency savings crisis reveals something even deeper about how most people are living. 27% of Americans have zero emergency savings. None. They are living completely paycheck to paycheck with absolutely no financial buffer between them and disaster. When these people face any unexpected expense, they have no choice but to go into debt, borrow from family, or simply go without whatever they need. Meanwhile, only 16% of American adults have what financial experts consider adequate emergency savings, which is enough money to cover 3 to 5 months of living expenses. This means that 84% of the population is operating without proper financial protection against job loss, medical emergencies, or economic downturns. They're essentially walking a financial tightrope without a safety net. What makes this emergency savings crisis even more disturbing is that it's getting worse, not better. 63% of Americans report that inflation is causing them to save less for unexpected expenses. So, while the cost of everything is going up, people's ability to prepare for emergencies is going down. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom while someone keeps making the holes bigger. Now, let's talk about something that might completely change how you think about middle-class success. The average American household debt reached $105,056 in 2024. Let me repeat that because it's so staggering. The average American family owes more than $100,000. This represents a 13% increase just since 2020, which means debt is growing faster than most people's incomes. But when we look at the total picture, it gets even more shocking. American households collectively carry $18.388 trillion in debt. That's trillion with a T. To put this number in perspective, that's more than the entire gross domestic product of most countries. We're talking about debt levels that would have been considered completely impossible just a generation ago. Credit card debt alone tells a story that should terrify anyone who understands compound interest. The average credit card balance per household is $10,767. But remember, this is the average, which includes people who pay off their cards every month. For families who actually carry balances, the numbers are much worse. By the end of 2024, Americans owed $1.18 trillion on 631 million credit card accounts. What makes the credit card situation particularly dangerous is how many people are falling behind on payments. In the first quarter of 2025, 7.04% of credit card accounts transitioned into serious delinquency, meaning they became 90 or more days past due. That's millions of families who are so financially stretched that they can't even make minimum payments on their credit cards. The delinquency rates reveal something crucial about the financial stress most people are under. Some 8.75% of credit card accounts became 30 days or more delinquent, which means people aren't just struggling with big emergencies. They're struggling to keep up with their regular monthly obligations. This is what happens when families are living so close to their financial limits that any small disruption throws them into crisis mode. Student loan debt represents another massive weight dragging down American families. Student loan debt in the United States totals $1.814 trillion. The average federal student loan debt balance is $39,075. But when you include private loans, that number jumps to as high as $42,673 per borrower. What makes the student loan crisis particularly devastating is how it affects people's ability to build wealth during their prime earning years. The average household with student debt owes $55,777, which means these families are starting their adult lives with a mortgage-sized debt, but no house to show for it. They're paying hundreds of dollars every month just to service debt for an education they already received, money that could otherwise be going towards savings, investments, or building emergency funds. Auto loans add another layer to this debt crisis that most people don't fully understand. The average auto loan debt is $24,413, with monthly payments averaging $745 for new cars. Think about that for a moment. The average American is paying more than $700 every month just for the privilege of driving a depreciating asset. That's more than many people spend on groceries for their entire family. But here's where the debt situation becomes truly insidious. These aren't separate problems affecting different groups of people. Many Americans are juggling all of these debt categories simultaneously. They're making student loan payments, car payments, credit card payments, and trying to pay rent or a mortgage all at the same time. When you add up all these monthly obligations, it becomes clear why so many people can't save money for emergencies or build any meaningful wealth. Now, if you're watching this and starting to feel overwhelmed by these statistics, make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. because understanding these financial realities is the first step toward protecting yourself from becoming another statistic. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss the strategies I share for staying ahead of these financial disasters that are crushing the majority of Americans. The retirement savings crisis reveals perhaps the most shocking disconnect between what people need and what they actually have. The median retirement savings for American households is $87,000. Remember, that's the median, which means half of all families have less than this amount saved for their entire retirement. For Americans younger than 35, the median retirement savings drops to just $18,800. But here's the number that should keep you awake at night. Over half of American households, 54%, report having no dedicated retirement savings whatsoever. None. They're planning to work until they physically can't anymore and then rely entirely on Social Security, which was never designed to be anyone's primary retirement income. These people are heading toward a retirement of poverty, and most of them don't even realize it yet. The gap between retirement needs and reality is staggering. Americans think they need $1.26 million to retire comfortably, but the median retirement savings for people age 55 to 64 is only $185,000. People age 65 to 74 have a median of $200,000 saved. These are people who are already retired or about to retire, and they have less than 20% of what they believe they need for a comfortable retirement. What makes this retirement crisis even more frightening is that only 34% of Americans feel on track for retirement. This means 2/3 of the population knows they're not saving enough, but they're not doing anything about it. They're just hoping something will change or that they'll figure it out later. Meanwhile, time and compound interest are working against them every day they delay. The wealth inequality in America has reached levels that would make medieval kings jealous. The average net worth in the United States is $1.06 million, but the median net worth is only $192,700. This massive gap between average and median reveals how extreme wealth concentration has become. A small number of ultra-wealthy individuals are pulling the average up so high that it bears no resemblance to what most people actually have. The bottom 50% of Americans hold just 2.4% of total wealth in the country. Meanwhile, the top 10% of households hold 67.2% of all wealth. To put this in concrete terms, the bottom half of American families have an average net worth of $60,000, while the top 10% average $8.1 million. We're not talking about small differences in success. We're talking about completely different financial universes. The billionaire class has seen unprecedented wealth growth, while average families struggle with basic expenses. The collective net worth of America's top 12 billionaires now surpasses $2 trillion. Their combined wealth increased by more than $1.3 trillion just between March 2020 and December 2024. While families were struggling to pay rent and buy groceries during a global pandemic, the ultra-wealthy saw their fortunes nearly double. This wealth concentration isn't just unfair, it's economically dangerous. When such a large percentage of total wealth is controlled by so few people, it creates instability in the entire system. The spending power that drives economic growth becomes concentrated among people who already have everything they need, while the masses who would spend additional income on goods and services don't have any additional income to spend. The financial literacy crisis underlying all these problems reveals why so many Americans make poor money decisions. 47% of adults give their personal finance knowledge a grade of C or worse. This percentage has actually increased by approximately 12% since 2009, which means financial literacy is getting worse, not better, despite having more access to financial information than ever before. The generational differences in financial literacy are particularly alarming. Generation Z has the lowest financial literacy rate at only 38%. While they're entering an economy that's more financially complex and dangerous than any previous generation has faced. These young adults are starting their careers with massive student loans, facing housing costs that consume huge percentages of their income, and trying to save for retirement in a world where traditional pensions have disappeared. Healthcare costs represent one of the biggest financial threats that most Americans are completely unprepared for. 12% of adults, about 31 million people, borrowed money to pay for medical bills in 2024. The total amount borrowed was approximately $74 billion. Americans collectively owe $220 billion in medical debt, which is debt that exists purely because people got sick or injured. The healthcare debt crisis reveals how quickly a medical emergency can destroy a family's financial stability. About 40% of Americans have some form of healthcare debt when you include credit cards and loans from family members used to pay medical bills. Approximately 14 million people owe more than $1,000 in medical debt, while 3 million people owe more than $10,000. What makes medical debt particularly devastating is that it's often unavoidable and unpredictable. Unlike credit card debt from lifestyle choices or student loans from education decisions, medical debt usually results from emergencies or conditions that people have no control over. 1 in 4 Americans say they've delayed or skipped medical care in the past year due to cost, even when it was urgent. They're literally choosing between their health and their financial stability. These shocking financial facts reveal the uncomfortable truth about what average really means in America today. While people post their highlight reels on social media and maintain appearances of success, the majority are living one paycheck away from disaster, drowning in debt they can't escape, and heading toward retirements they can't afford. The person driving that nice car next to you at the traffic light might not be able to handle a $400 emergency without borrowing money. But here's what separates people who break free from these statistics and those who become them: knowledge and action. Now that you understand the real financial landscape, you can make different choices than the majority. You can build emergency funds while others accumulate debt. You can invest for retirement while others hope for the best. You can develop financial literacy while others remain ignorant about money. If this video opened your eyes to the financial reality most people face, subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell. I'll be sharing the specific strategies that help you avoid becoming another shocking statistic and build real wealth while everyone else stays trapped in the financial hamster wheel. The question isn't whether you're doing better than average. The question is whether you're going to do something about it. Your future self is counting on the decision you make today.